You don't know what a bus fare is?
No.
Susan Hall, you don't know who owns Hammersmith Bridge, you don't know what a police officer makes, and you don't know the bus
I
fare.
said to you in the 30s, as you full well know.
Hammersmith Bridge will be closed very shortly for 5 years to motorised traffic. What are your concrete plans for tackling this?
Well, you can only have concrete plans when you know what money you've got available. As you know, well, I don't know if you know, so I'll actually point it out. It's quite clear that the mayor has been squirreling money aside for the last few years in order to suddenly, in election year, really locate about £500 million. So I need to know what is in the coffers before we start promising anything. I believe it's going to cost £250 million to repair. Certainly, if there's money that can be found that would be able to be used on it, I would. I think there's about 30 bridges in London that go over the Thames. We must get our city moving again. And quite frankly, this is a key bridge. So if there's money there and it can be dealt with, and the two councils can be
who owns
persuaded.
the bridge, Susan Hall?
Well, it's between the two councils. Apparently, it's not very clear. But at the end of the day, the mayor is in charge of London, and if things are not working, they have to step in. If he can step in with £30 million for his mates in the unions, he can certainly start finding money for an essential bridge like this.
Right, we'll come to that £30 million in just a second. So you're saying that the two local authorities shouldn't have to bear the whole cost, and people who live in Sidcup and Highgate should have to pay to repairing Hammersmith Bridge?
I'm saying let's look and see what money is in the coffers, because it's certainly a very important issue. If I can find the money to fix it,
What
I
if
will.
you can't?
Well, let's see what's there. He
he
squirrels away lots of money in various different reserve pots, and that needs to be looked at. The transparency of the budget, it takes something to be desired, to be honest. So let's see what money is there. He's got a £21 billion budget. He could have dealt with it by now.
Let's get a response from Julia in Barnes. Julia, a response from what you heard from Susan Hall.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed by this response because it shows a basic factual misunderstanding of the case. The bridge doesn't belong to two councils. It only belongs to one council, which is Hammersmith and Fulham. Central government are the only people everyone knows who has the budget to repair the bridge. And it sounds to me like you're making absolutely no promises at all. So the electorate won't bear what you say in mind when it comes to voting on the issue of Hammersmith Bridge.
Before you go, Julia, let Susan Hall respond.
Can I just say one thing?
Your facts wrong.
No, can I just say one thing?
Well, you have got your facts wrong, haven't you?
I will not promise anything unless I know where the money is coming from. I have said that from the beginning. Now, by the end of February, we will know what money is available. If there is money, I for sure will do what I can, because it is the mayor's job to make sure we've got a moving city. And at the moment, the city is pretty gridlocked. So I won't make promises on the radio or anywhere else unless I know that these promises are funded. I've been listening to Nick for long enough to know that, you have so many different people on promising everything. You should not promise unless you know where the money is going to come from.
All right, so you can't promise more police officers then?
Yes, I can, because I have actually found £200 million. There's a list of places that's going to come from, and that's why I made that pledge.
OK. Why didn't you know who owns the bridge?
Because the two councils have been fighting with each other over it.
It was 1985 that the ownership of the bridge was transferred to the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham.
I've been speaking to Hammersmith and Fulham, and they want contributions from other councils.
You agree this is a major issue for voters both sides of the bridge?
Yeah, of course it is. It's a major issue for Londoners.
So someone standing as a mayoral candidate should know who owns the damn thing, shouldn't they?
I just know how much it's going to cost to repair.
But you don't know who owns it. All right, Julia, thank you for the call. Matthew's at Heathrow. Matthew, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, Susan. What it is, it's looking like we're going to have a Labour government at the next general election. We see it's not healthy to have an opposition mayor of London. So, the Conservative government is just playing politics and not really supporting the current mayor. So, why do you think we should elect a Conservative mayor?
Well, you're making an assumption that Labour will win the next general election. Lots of people make an incorrect assumption that Sadiq Khan will win the London election. I tell you, I'm out knocking on doors all the time. People are sick to death of Sadiq Khan. I can work with anybody. Whichever government is in place, I will work with them. So it can be done. The problem with Sadiq Khan is whenever he's had secret meetings, as it were, or confidential meetings, I should say, then goes out and briefs the press straight away. So consequently, government have been very concerned about telling him various things. When you're told things in confidence, you keep them in confidence. So it's more, in my view, the way the behaviour of the mayor has been wrong.
Matthew, a quick response from you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for London is the capital of the UK, so really it needs to be working in harmony with the current government, and we just see politics being played over the ULEZ and everything. I mean, we want to save the pollution and save the planet, and London's where it's got to start.
All right, Matthew, thank you for that. I'm reminded, Hassan asked for a score, Susan Hall. I apologise, I forgot to come to. If you may recall the rank, he wanted the Met rank between score 1 to 10, currently your first caller, and I didn't get your rating. Can I get that score before we move on?
With me, it'll be 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10?
When I'm in charge.
No, I'm so sorry. Currently, where would you say it is?
Currently, it needs improvement. I will leave it at that because, to be honest with you...
You're not going to give me a score?
No, and I'll tell you for why.
Okay.
Because we have got to support the police. We have got to support the police. We need them. We need them desperately. We have to support them. Sadiq Khan suddenly finds miracle money from all over the place, everywhere, and yet he has not been helping out in the police. And every one of us want to feel safer, Nick.
The miracle money to which you refer is the £30 million that was discovered, as you rightly say, earlier this month. But, of course, it did avert tube strikes. You'd have gone ahead with those tube strikes, would
Yes,
you?
and what are ASLEF doing now?
Well, why don't you tell my listeners what you perceive ASLEF is doing now?
Well, I think we're in for a load more strikes. We've had 139 strikes under Sadiq Khan. We need to put this right.
How would you prevent that high level of strike days?
Well, I certainly think you should help to negotiate with the unions. He just stepped in, threw money at it, and of course the other unions have immediately turned around and said, what about ours? But, the unions fund his election campaign.
You must support the tube fare freeze, the £123 million. You want to... Or would you undo? Would you revoke a freeze or take it out?
I go back to my original point. We need to see what money is there. He's obviously...
No, but on Friday, you'll know that on Friday he announced his freeze. Of course you do. OK, just to clarify. Well, for my listeners then, just to give the benefit, for a single fare freeze on the Transport for London, current levels for 1 year starting in March, all pay-as-you-go fares on Oyster cards, contactless bank cards subject to the freeze, journey between Zone 5 to 1 at peak times £5.10. There we go. You would undo that?
I don't know. Let's wait and see what the finances are.
So you could undo it?
No. Nick, Sadiq Khan has been screaming that he hasn't got enough money for the last 7 years.
Respectfully, enough of Mayor Khan now. Just for you, would you now undo that? So the freeze would not stay in place?
I suspect it would stay in place. I wonder where the money has come from. Don't forget, he's spent 7 years saying he's got no money, he's been underfunded, and yet suddenly he's got money to do a fare freeze. Oh, guess why? There's an election coming. He'll find other monies for all sorts of other things, and it's because there's an election coming. But in the last 7 years, he's been depriving various vital services from money, and I would suggest definitely the police, in order that he can have a bumper year now, just before an election, and buy the votes, quite frankly.
Let's go to other calls. I think this is an area you touched on earlier, Susan Hall. Jane's in Richmond. Jane, you're on the radio. Your question, if you would. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Susan. Hi.
Good morning, Jane.
Last week, Nick Ferrari, the police commissioner, on the show, and Mark mentioned that London the police budget is currently covering the £18.5 million of policing football participants and football visitors to the capital, and basically policing outside of the stadiums is costing the Met £18.5 million. What's your thoughts on that? And should the police be stumping up the cost or the Premier clubs?
And it's worth, Jane, thank you, it's worth reminding listeners, some of these football clubs, as you're probably aware, Susan Hall, have fabulously rich owners.
Yes, they do. They do, and we've got to look at
18.5. I mean, the weakest left back in the division will probably cost 3 times that amount anyway. So your view on that, Susan Hall?
I do think that we need to look at where we can find money for the police in this respect. I mean, I've been to Tottenham games when the lovely police horses are out, and there's especially if they're playing against Arsenal, there used to be problem. No.
Are you a Spurs fan?
I am indeed.
You're a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think, because just as I'm sure you're aware, police officers within the ground, Tottenham Hotspur have to pay for.
Yeah.
Anybody, any man, woman or horse outside the ground is down to the Met, as it would be at Arsenal, as it would be at Chelsea Palace and everywhere else. You'd say it's time some of the clubs paid some of that.
A fraction towards it, yes. I think that's a good idea. I think they should.
Why only a fraction?
Well, because they would say that they pay their rates. They would say that they pay towards it in any event. So a fraction can be any amount.
And what's a fraction? I mean, just,
no, it needs
25?
Needs to be looked in, possibly. It needs to be looked into. And I think the law has to be changed in order to do that.
All right. Staying with that idea, Jane, thank you for your question. If we expand that, what about the idea of some protest groups paying towards the policing of some of the demonstrations, whether it be pro-Palestinian groups, Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil? Is there an argument that they should pay towards some of the policing of that?
Well, isn't this an interesting one? Because we've all, I know, you only ever ask interesting.
Well, I try.
Yes, you do. You do very well. But it is interesting because on the one hand, I mean, this is one of the situations. On the one hand, we're all allowed to do, have free speech, go on demonstrations. It's part of our democracy. So it's difficult to say no. Having said that, protests like Just Stop Oil, protests like the ones we've been seeing over the last goodness knows how many weeks, are disturbing. I find it very disturbing that lots of Jewish Londoners don't want to come into London anymore because of it. And that, you see, is totally unacceptable. People don't want to be sprayed with orange paint, wouldn't go near the Just Stop Oil people. But that's totally different to the situation Jewish Londoners are in. And I absolutely feel for Jewish Londoners at the moment. They don't feel safe, Nick.
Let's go to other callers. Lorna's in Loddon, not London, Loddon in Norfolk, but you were in London. Is that correct, Lorna? Hello.
Yes, hi. I was driven out because of a lot of Sadiq Khan's changes to the roads around me.
Right.
He basically did a lot of unnecessary work, like narrowed roads in Sussex Gardens from 4 to 2 lanes when it was the only people wandering down there were prostitutes. Okay. I hate to say that, but he also put cycle lanes everywhere. He put, I mean, basically, what I'm saying is...
Can I move you to your question, Lorna, if I might? Thank you very much.
Has she got the courage to reverse a lot of the work on the roads that Sadiq Khan has done, which has slowed traffic down, actually caused more pollution, become a nightmare for builders, delivery people, etc., trying to get on with their lives?
So to clarify, you want cycle lanes ripped up? Just to clarify, is that what you want?
Not everywhere. I want consultation with the police.
Okay.
With the police, where most people died. So where there's blind spots, with the areas where there's been a lot of cycle deaths, keep those in those areas.
Okay, I've got to move to the question now because so many people want their involvement. Susan Hall.
Yes, I do have the guts to do it. I wish you'd come back to London, Lorna, because you agree with what I do. It's war on the motorists, quite frankly. Things that I would do is get rid of that ridiculous cycling lane on Park Lane that's gridlocks that part of London. We've got 20-mile-an-hour zones on places like the Finchley Road. Utterly ridiculous. Worse than all of these, we've got floating bus stops. If you're blind or partially sighted or disabled, but cycles should stop for you if you're trying to cross the road back onto the pavement. They don't. They're really dangerous, and the Association for the Blind are very, very concerned about these. Yes, reducing width on major roads. Totally ludicrous, because even if we all sit in a traffic jam, it's outrageous that Ambulances have to, fire engines have to, police officers have to. We need our emergency vehicles to be able to get through our roads. So yes, I do have the guts to do it. And yes, I would be doing it. We need to get London moving again, which is why, going back to the Hammersmith Bridge, if I could find the money to do that, I would. We need our bridges sorted out in London. We need to know that we can keep London moving.
Lorna, thank you. Dan, coming to you for the next question in a moment. You've referenced Mayor Khan a lot. Earlier this month, he talked about this being a year of decision. There's every chance we could see Donald Trump in the White House, Suella Braverman in number 10, and Susan Hall in London's City Hall, said Mayor Khan. Given that one of Donald Trump's most prominent supporters has actually stood down, that becomes even more of a reality. But I read here from Alistair in Hackney, do you still think the 2020 election was stolen?
No, I think you're referring to an old tweet.
You did say that, says Alistair in Hackney.
Yeah, but that was at the very beginning of something. Oh, listen, we've gone through my tweet.
You initially thought the 2020...
I tweet and I used to like things on Twitter. But I will go back...
But just to clarify, you did initially think the 2020 election was stolen?
No, I did. I think I liked something. As you know, I never intended to go into this sort of level of politics. If not, I probably would not have had a Twitter account because you like things and repeat things that you don't always like.
I don't.
But the one thing that...
I don't.
No, because
I've never said I like anything that I don't like. Why would you even countenance it? Well, unless you're going to tell me that the 2020 election was stolen.
No, of course it wasn't.
Well, why would you
I
like
don't
something?
know. I don't
You don't know why you do tweets. You don't think that's a bit frightening that the Mayor of London doesn't know why she does things?
No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
I think we've been through this before. One often likes it, or you do when you're not. I mean, I don't suppose
Are
you
we
do.
closer to Susan Hall in City Hall as a result of Donald Trump? Do you welcome the fact that it would appear his path has been cleared to a degree last night?
Well, what the Americans decide to do is up to the Americans. I'm very glad that Sadiq Khan thinks that I could be in City Hall. He must be being told that by his activists out there knocking on doors, because that's what I'm hearing, knocking on doors.
Dan's in Bermondsey. Dan, you're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Hello.
My question is that earlier on, Susan, you mentioned that you wanted to recruit more police officers. The problem is that Sadiq Khan has been trying to recruit for God knows how many years, and he hasn't been successful. So my question is, how are you going to actually attract people to apply for the police, and how are you going to improve the calibre of the police officers joining?
That's a very good. Stay on the line if you would.
Yeah, no, it is a good question. And actually, Sadiq Khan screaming at the government for more money.
What's a copper earn?
I think they're on about. I think they start about 30 something, and it goes up from there.
Right. So you're seeking to recruit more officers.
Yeah.
You don't actually know how much they earn.
I think they cost us Bobby costs about 60k with the ongoing costs. Don't forget, it's not just their wages.
Sorry, £60,000.
I think you have to estimate around 60k because of their pensions and everything else.
Yeah. But what's the starting salary?
I don't know what the one is now. They're being given a 5%. Oh, I probably should know what nurses earn and teachers earn.
All right, it's £36,000. So, how are you going to get more?
Right. So there is a problem with recruitment. I would suggest it's because police are being so bad-mouthed in London by so many, which is why I said to you earlier, we need to support the police.
But sorry, who's bad-mouthing? I mean, I'm not, and I doubt that you are. So who is?
I absolutely am not.
I'm sure you're not. So who is bad-mouthing them?
Well, the gentleman on the phone, Dan, has just said a better quality of officer. Let me assure you, Dan, the vast majority of officers are very good quality. They really are. They are brave, they run into danger, they need to be supported by all of us. Sadiq Khan has got a checkered history on whether he will or won't support the police. Right. We need to support them, not only in our words and our deeds, but we also need to support them financially. Now, if there was a better reputation in the Met, then we'd have more people that wanted to go into it. Sadiq Khan has just given back to the government £90 million, Nick, that the government were prepared to give him to get more officers.
Let's clarify from Dan. Dan, were you bad-mouthing the police when you made that point? Dan?
No, because I'm a police officer myself.
I figured you were, the way you put the question. Do you think that's going to encourage more blokes and women to join up?
Probably not. I think we need to improve the salary.
Right.
We need to improve the working conditions, the hours we do.
Right.
We need to make the job attractive because there's so many other jobs that are more attractive now than being a police officer.
All right.
So
Are
I
you
don't know
glad you
how
do
that's
it?
going to happen.
I know it's not your real name.
I love my job.
You do.
I love my job. Yeah.
Well, thank goodness for the courage that you and your colleagues show. We're very, very grateful for the work you do.
And most of them do love their job, seriously.
Yeah.
And they are, I mean, but I don't know how long, Dan, you've been in the force, but one of the worst things that ever happened to the Metropolitan Police is when they went over to BCUs, Basic Command Units, when they were actually borough control, when there were borough police officers, they had places they could go to locally, which was much better for the local police. It was a much better system to have a borough-based policing unit, if you like, and therefore police officers on the street knew who to go to.
All right, let's pick up a couple of questions. Yes, we've got time that have come in on. Pam in Worcester Park. I've heard Susan Hall talk about the underground, about bicycle, about cars. What about buses? We need more buses. Where are you on bus? Would you try and bring about more buses, Susan Hall?
Yes, I would, because
where's the money coming from for that?
Exactly, which is why. But you see, this is why, Nick, I keep saying to you, let's see where the money is when he brings in his final budget, because every year that I've been on the Assembly, suddenly £200 million every year around that figure has appeared from the draft budget to the main budget. There's no transparency in his budget at all. So let's see what money there is there, and then I will make the pledges. And when I make a pledge, it will be kept.
Would you alter bus fares?
You're going back to finance again.
What is the bus fare? How much do you pay to get on a bus currently?
I don't use them. I use trains all the time.
You don't know what a bus fare is?
No.
Susan, you don't know who owns Hammersmith Bridge, you don't know what a police officer makes, and you don't know the bus fare.
I said to you in the 30s, as you full well know. I use lots of trains to get around London.
£1.75 is a bus fare, okay. But that can get you from Southgate to Croydon if you hop on and off. Don't we need to review some of that? I mean, that is an incredible value for money. That's the width of London you've traversed, or almost, I don't know, Richmond to Sidcup for £1.75.
Yeah, which is why buses are good, but I don't know the profitability, and I don't know whether... I know Sadiq Khan has cut a load of buses, so we need to be looking at that, because that will affect local people.
But again, you need closer inspection of the budget. You can't say
what bus where. Listen, Nick, over the years, I have heard you criticise people because they promise left, right and centre. I've been listening to you for 20 years, and you say that, and congratulations, by the way, for that. And I listen to you say they promise this and that, and they don't know where the money's come. I'm saying to you, there's lots of things I'd like to do, but it's impossible for me to say until I know what money is there. Because I guarantee you, when I'm Mayor of London, whatever I've said to you I will do it.